This season of the Creative Piano Teaching Podcast is proudly supported by Tanara Music Practice Platform. Hi everyone, it's Tim here, and I wanted to let you know that tickets are now on sale for my very own Piano Teachers Conference being held here in Melbourne in January 2020. It's called Piano Pivot Live, and you can get your ticket and find out all the details now at pianopivotlive.com. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, reading my blog, and getting inspired by fresh lesson and business ideas, then this is the conference for you. This two-day experience will bring together your favourite speakers, unpacking topics from creative pedagogy to marketing, preschoolers to technology, and everything in between. You'll get all your morning and afternoon teas, snacks, and a full lunch included in your ticket price. And while I know you'll get inspired by our keynotes and get practical in our workshops, what I'm most excited by is the chance you'll have to work with our speakers and experts in small group mastermind and implementation sessions to help you ensure you get a return on your investment in 2020. So if you've ever thought about visiting Melbourne or Australia, then this is your chance. It will be the perfect start to a new year of teaching, hanging out with other teachers from around the world, getting inspired, planning your studio, and making real change for the year ahead. Buy your ticket now at pianopivotlive.com before they all sell out. Okay, let's get on with the show.
Welcome to the Creative Piano Teaching Podcast, the place where teachers from around the world meet to share innovative ideas about music education. Listen and learn as we help you motivate your students, grow your income, expand your studio, and become a more creative piano teacher.
Hi everyone, it's Tim Topham here, and welcome back to Season 3, 2019 of the Creative Piano Teaching Podcast. I am so excited by today's show because not only are we chatting with one of my Inner Circle members, which I always love, but what we're discussing is how to make sure that you make enough money in your business to cover your expenses, particularly when you want to do some special things like go to a particular conference, maybe the Piano Pivot Live in January, or you want to join a subscription or a membership, maybe like the Inner Circle. And these kind of things, it sounds simple, right? Making sure your business covers your expenses, but it's not always the case. My guest today wanted to join the Inner Circle, but knew it was an investment, and so wanted to make sure that she brought in more income than she spent on the membership to make sure it was worthwhile. Well, she didn't just make her money back, she more than doubled it and has plans to expand these new ideas into the future. And you can't help but get inspired by today's guest. Totally understated and modest, she's absolutely killing it with a studio of 120 students, 3 teachers, and growing rapidly. So today we're going to cover how she ensures that everything she spends money on for her business is covered by her income, even if she needs to create new income streams to bring in that money. We're going to talk about how she's expanded her studio, and we're going to help you come up with some innovative ideas that you can implement in your studio next time you want to join a membership or attend professional development or a conference. For today's show notes, links, and full transcript, just type timtopham.com/episode 172 into your favorite browser. And Inner Circle members, you can find everything you need inside our member forums. My guest today is one of my Inner Circle members and began teaching out of her parents' home at the age of 12. At age 18, she was teaching 40 private students a week. She was always looking for fun and innovative ideas to bring into her lessons and eventually came across piano teacher blogs such as Colour in My Piano, Teach Piano Today, and yours truly, Tim Topham. The ideas she was bringing into her lessons from these piano teachers made her studio really popular. In 2016, she began teaching group lessons and rented a commercial space for her teaching. She now runs a fast-growing studio of 120 plus piano students employing other teachers and growing. Welcome to the show, Amy Comparetto.
Thanks for having me.
So super to have a member on here. We're going to unpack some very cool stuff that you've been up to recently, but tell us a little bit about your studio.
So I run a studio in a commercial space. We've got about 120 students, and we do group lessons, preschool lessons, and just started doing adult lessons. It's all piano, so that's what we do.
Cool. Is that, how many teachers have you got, or is that you doing 120 in groups?
There's 4 of us.
Okay. And you're one of them, but do you have, is it 120 kids that you teach yourself, or is that the total?
No, I was teaching 80 as of last year.
Yep.
This year I'm teaching only about 25, so.
Oh, wow. Okay. And they groups, or are they mainly one-on-one?
They are groups.
Oh, great. Okay.
Mostly
That's
groups.
quite a lighter load. So what are you spending more time doing now that you weren't last year?
Running the studio, trying to market and get new students, and just, improve the program behind the scenes.
Right. Got it. So this is your studio. You've built this from the ground up. You've hired
Yes.
these other teachers, and now you're able to step back a bit from teaching and do more of the strategy and the business development.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. So what were your lessons like as a child? Did you have kind of creative ones or pretty traditional?
They were traditional, and I loved my teacher. She was amazing. They were in home. I was actually homeschooled, so I would go to her house on Tuesday mornings. And actually, when I was really little, I took piano lessons from my siblings for about 5 years. That was not a very fun experience. And I begged my mom. Oh no, that wasn't good. And actually, they're older than me, so my teacher was very focused on teaching us to sight read really well. And she did an amazing job with that. And I would, come in with a new Beethoven sonata every week. That's how she was. She just had us reading a lot. But my brother and sister were so much better than me, and I wanted to play what they were playing. So I would play by ear, which helped me really develop the sight reading and the, memorizing and playing by ear, which is kind of actually probably an unusual skill set. So that's been kind of nice to have.
Yeah, and also connected though, like putting the rote or the by ear stuff with the reading and the all the other stuff you're doing is a really kind of comprehensive way to learn too, even if it wasn't kind of planned to be that way.
Right.
So how long have you been teaching all up now?
I started when I was 12. I'm 27. So,
Whoa,
but
12?
I was not a good teacher at 12. Students. I started teaching full time, about 40 students when I was 17, 18.
Wow. That's 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That's like 5 years of teenage teaching as a teenager too. That must have been, you must have learned a heap in that amount of time.
Yeah, it was not good years for my students though.
Right. And how long did you teach one-on-one or teach in your own studio before you thought, oh, maybe I could build this up?
It was really when I started teaching group lessons, which was about 2.5 years ago, maybe. And I had the lessons in my parents' home, and, having 5 kids coming and 5 kids going wasn't working for them or, anyone involved. So, right, exactly. So that's when I got the commercial space.
Right. And you moved yourself into the commercial space to run your lessons there. How long before you built up enough interest that you're able to hire some other teachers?
That was actually just in December. I hired my first.
Last year?
Yes.
Oh, wow. And you've got 4 altogether now. So 3, you plus 3?
Yep.
Wow. That's fast growth. How have you been building your numbers so well?
Mostly Google ads and Facebook advertising and, word of mouth.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
Following up with leads actually has been really good for me. That's something I never did before. And that's been
What
really
do you mean by leads?
great too. So someone who gets in touch with me, it used to be that I would email them back and maybe they wouldn't respond to me. And I would just let that go. Or they're not interested. Well, now I follow up with them several times. And usually those people sign on because they were interested. They just needed that extra push. And that's been really helpful for growing.
Yeah, it's interesting. As I put together the Piano Teachers Conference for January, I'm reaching out to a lot of my contacts. And it is interesting how often people will respond on the second or third email. It's not because they weren't interested or wanted to ignore you. It's just that things get lost in inboxes really easily. And I think that's a really instructive thing for all teachers to take away with their own business. Particularly as you've had success with it, it's like, maybe they don't answer your first email, but don't let that stop you. Try again. Or if you have their phone number, give them a call after a few days.
Right. And I feel like I kind of like it when businesses reach out to me. I don't want them to hound me, but to show that they're interested in having me as a customer makes me feel better about that business too. So
that's a really nice way to look at it. Yeah. So look, I'm always extra excited to have an Inner Circle member on the podcast. It's always very, very cool. What made you decide to join our community?
I don't really remember exactly what made me join. I think I watched a webinar, and I think it was the one on like websites or something like
Oh
that.
yeah. Yeah.
So I watched the webinar, and I was just, I remember just feeling like every time I watch, something of Tim's, I learn something, and I've been listening to your podcast for years. And I just felt like I had built up enough trust, and, I want to learn from someone who I know, I've learned from in the past. So you have a lot of free content out there that's been really helpful already. So I was like, oh, well, you know what? The paid content's probably even better. So, and it's been great. So
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you for sharing that. And one of the other things that you shared, which I was just so excited to read, was some feedback that you left in our member forums. And I just want to read it to people. It's quite short, but it's really, really powerful. And this is what I really want to unpack today, because I think a lot of other teachers can learn from it. So you said, I joined the Inner Circle a couple of weeks ago and had decided that in order to make it worth the cost, I needed to make sure I made back a dollar amount equal to what I spent on a 1-year membership. So I put together a workshop based on what I've learned in the 4-chord composing course, sent out an email a couple of days ago inviting students to sign up for the workshops, and so far already have $1,000 in signups. So firstly, congratulations. We better find out, how did it all go?
it was great, actually. So I ran 4 workshops, 2 different kinds. They were basically the same, but one for slightly older kids and one for younger kids. And usually for me, when I'm running even just normal lessons, I'll feel like I can't tell whether kids are having fun. So they're not very expressive, and they'll, be sitting there. And then later you find out that their parents said they had a great time. But at the end of these workshops, a lot of the kids were saying, if you hold this next year, I'm going to be back. This was so much fun. So I got great feedback from it. It was really good.
And what did they look like, the workshops? Are they an hour, a day? What kind of things did you do?
We did 2 hours a day for 2 days. The hook was we had a pizza party the second day. So
That always helps.
That's how I got the kids interested. So I would tell them, yeah, we'll have a pizza. And they loved that. So, but basically I followed, so I ran 2 different kinds. I ran one based on your 4-chord composing. Basically I had already been working kids through it a little bit. So they had, good chord foundation. And this was for the teenagers and teenagers. We just kind of worked through that material. And by the end of that, they had written some chord progressions in ABA form.
Yeah.
And they all played them for each other at the end. And they love it. I mean, they love doing those chords. And it's funny, I just picked up a guitar the other day because I don't know how to play guitar, and I was teaching myself the chords. And as someone who's not familiar with the instrument, to just be able to play those chords and make them sound good, I just kept on going back and forth between between the chords. And I was like, this is what my students are feeling. It just sounds so good, even if they haven't been playing for a long time. So that was what we did in that one. The other one, I actually used Nicola Canton's Animal Menagerie composing for the little kids.
Yeah.
And
perfect.
they each wrote a song. So that was great. And then they performed the songs at the recital at the end of summer. So that was great.
Oh, that's great. And the parents came along, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. What a great little idea. And did you find, or how many kids did you have approximately on each of the workshops?
The limit was 5. So I had 4 or 5 in each one.
Right. So a nice little small group. And so they were coming for 2 hours on one. So say Monday, 2 hours, Tuesday, 2 hours. And and then they would have a pizza thing that second day. Is that right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nice. And what were you charging parents for this?
$90.
Wow. That's great.
So,
yeah.
And that's a little bit cheaper than their regular hourly rate in group lessons. That was kind of the hook too, although I don't usually like to advertise things as being an hourly rate, but I did tell them it's cheaper than your normal lessons. And in the future, I would probably make it the same price, but just to get people in.
Yeah, it's a way of price anchoring, isn't it? Saying here's what you normally play. This is a little bit more discounted. So let's unpack the concept behind it a little bit more. One of the struggles many piano teachers face is struggling to pay for professional development courses, memberships, conferences, probably because we all spend our money on sheet music. But as we build our studios, money is tight, and there isn't always that instant reward when we spend a few $100s. And so in business terms, we call this return on investment. And it sounds like you were familiar with this concept, obviously, before you joined up. Is this because of the thinking you have around your own business, the studio that you're running?
I'm thinking about ROI all the time, probably even more than I should. But every dollar I spend in the business, I'm thinking, how am I going to get this back? And it doesn't need to be immediate return. It can be, how is it going to improve my retention, that sort of thing. For joining the inner circle, I had that, this is how much it's going to cost, and this is how much I can bring in, even if I tend to I tend to plan for the worst case scenario. So my worst case scenario was maybe I'll only get 4 kids to sign up.
Right.
Well, that still covered the cost. So then my job is to make sure I get more than that, so I can actually make money instead of just breaking even.
Right.
And that's, I'm motivated to do that because I'm thinking about that ROI. And I'm also, I personally don't like to be in debt. So any dollar I spend, I want to make sure I'm staying here and going up and not going under ever. So that makes me work harder also to stay above with the ROI.
Yeah, it's a really sensible way to think. It's not always possible, of course. Were you able to stay in the black, as we would call it over here? I assume you use that same term, when you leased your studio space or bought it or whatever you arranged with that?
Yes.
Wow, that's great.
I don't have a family. I'm single. I live by myself. So, and that's where I'm not. For someone who does decide to go into debt for that, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I didn't need to.
And your commercial location, is it in a shopping strip or kind of residential area?
It's in an old school that's now like an arts building.
Oh, nice. Okay, so there's other artist type organizations in there.
Yep, dance studios and
great.
And art places. Yeah.
I'm super delighted that Tanara is supporting this season of the podcast and wanted to take a minute to tell you what they offer. Tanara creates an inspiring community for music teachers and students throughout each week. We know that apps don't teach quality music. Teachers do, and Tanara can make your teaching even more engaging. Help your students discover the difference effective practice can make. Tanara is available on mobile, tablet and desktop. So head to tanara.com, that's TONARA.com, and sign up for a 30-day free trial, or head to your respective mobile store on your device and download the app. Let Tanara create happiness in your studio today. So how did you come up with the idea? Because I mean, it's a great concept, right? I'm going to be spending a few $100s on a membership. How can I make sure I recoup that as quickly as possible? That was your thinking. How long did it take you to come up with the workshop idea? And did you have other ideas that you sort of considered before you went, okay, I'm going to do the workshop?
I don't think so. Although I have a camp that I've run a couple years in the studio, which is kind of similar. It's 2 hours a day for 4 days. And we basically just do our regular group lessons during that time, but make it a little more fun, add games, that sort of thing. So I wanted to be able to offer something that was cheaper and shorter than that. And honestly, when I watched the 4 chord composing videos that you have for free available, that idea came right away. I was like, oh, this is exactly what I should do for that. So
cool. Yes. Yeah. And your camps, do you do themes with those?
I should, but I don't.
Okay. There's plenty of room for growth, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And with the workshops, I mean, it sounds like they've been cash positive, so you've actually made money from the numbers that you've got in. And I guess the other thing to calculate is time too, because while it's not cost you any money to run these, apart from the membership, it has cost you in time to plan them. And so I'm often thinking with teachers too, one really easy way to check a return on investment is for something like automating billing. Now I'd be keen to hear what you do with this in a moment, but for teachers that are spending, let's say, an hour a week doing their invoicing, or an hour a month even, and they could be charging themselves out at $50 an hour to teach, then there's a cost associated with that time that you're spending doing this manual invoicing. which if you paid $20 a month to a piece of software to do it, you're already up. So I'm interested in your thinking when you're thinking about return on investment and making sure you cover your costs. Do you include your own time in that?
Yes. And actually, it's interesting you say that, because and when you calculate what time you're saving in that situation, you want to make sure that you're either you want to use that time you saved wisely. So either that means spending it with your family, but intentionally doing that, or using it to do something that has a higher dollar per hour. So what I did, the time that it took to run the workshops was definitely worth it. There was time spent planning. I wrote down minute by minute what we were going to do for these workshops. And now I have this, and I can actually have another teacher run it next year. But even if it was just me, I have that all planned. So now all I need to do, I actually looked at my outline the entire way through, because I can't memorize that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I just referred to it the whole time. I'll use the same outline next year. So the planning's out of the way.
Yeah. Nice approach. And fairly easy to scale, I guess, if you wanted to. I mean, depending on how much space you've got or the time you've got available to have your other teachers, as you say, just say, take this package and go for it. Run this. That's got great potential for bringing in more income for not much more time now. Did you keep track of how much time you spent planning it and putting it together and building the program?
It didn't take that long, because once I was sitting down and writing things out, if I just sat there thinking about it and thinking, oh, what will I do here? And I think it would take a lot more space in my brain. So I had the 2 different workshops. So I sat down probably for 20 to 30 minutes, maybe, for each one, and just typed everything out. From 0 minutes to 10 minutes, we'll do this. From 10 minutes to 25 minutes, we'll do this.
Yep.
And it didn't take long at all. And it really helped me, feel like, oh yeah, I've got this. I've got the material. Nothing's going to go wrong here.
Yeah, it's great. And so good that the feedback was fantastic too. Were the kids that came to these workshops, they're already students, I assume, of your studio. So did you just do an email blast to get people to sign up?
Yes, I did. I did one email blast to everyone, but I went through my list, and I only sent it to people that I would want in it. And so, and there were actually a lot that I didn't, because we had a lot of new students, and I didn't want the brand new students in that workshop. There are other things that I, told them about, like the regular camp that we do, but I didn't want them in the composing workshop, because I felt like they needed, some foundation before that. So I just sent it to those students who I thought would be a good fit. And I told them, I'm only sending this to people who I think will be a good fit for this program. And I think that was a great thing. I think people, were more likely to sign up because of that, because I made it a little more personal that way. Right. And then the students I really thought would be a good fit, I talked to their parents, I talked to the kids, and just, in their lessons, at the end of their lessons, and told them it was going to be great fun, they should come. And that really helped too.
That's great. And did you take money online somehow, or did they pay when they came on the day?
Yes, we use online payments.
And do you have a software that you use for your studio?
Can I talk about this for a minute?
Yeah.
Because I feel like people don't know about this, and I need to tell people. So, so I actually switched to credit card payments about a year ago, and I was bringing in enough money per month that seeing that hit of the 3% credit card fees was really bothering me. I was like, oh, I could use this X amount of dollars on this other thing. And it was just paying that money to the credit card company I didn't like that, but
it's dead money. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was going to do it for the automated payments, but I think the software I was using at the time didn't even allow like recurring monthly payments. So I researched a while, and then I came to QuickBooks, and this is kind of hidden. QuickBooks is like the #1 software over here. You can do recurring ACH bank transfers for free. Doesn't cost anything. You get people set up once, and it's set up on your end. So, if you're charging $100 a month, you're getting $100 completely, and they're set up until you cancel them. So if they want to cancel they can't do it themselves. They actually have to tell you, which is also helpful. And,
Yeah.
when those people that, quit 2 weeks after their payment was due, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is free recurring payments. It costs $35 a month. But then for things like a workshop, we do just a regular invoice that they pay.
Right. Okay. And they can pay with credit card?
We require bank transfer, but they can.
Oh, yeah.
We can allow it that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And so QuickBooks, that's great. Thanks for sharing the tip. And QuickBooks, I've always thought it to be accounting software predominantly. So you're saying, yeah, that's your accounting package, but it actually has this recurring billing feature that
I don't even use it for accounting. So
right. Okay. And so you've worked out that the $35 a month that you spend is less than the 3% of the total income that you take from your students.
It's less than 10% of what that was. So
right.
I'm saving.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
I'm saving a lot of money by doing that. And most softwares cost money anyway, even for credit card
that's
payment.
true. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Wow, that's great. Great to know. You really are a business thinker. I'm liking it. Have you had training in business or accounting or anything like that?
No, I didn't even go to college, so
Wow.
where have
you've just picked this up as you've gone along? Have you worked for other people that you've seen do this or anything?
No, I've always worked for myself. But I do, I do things like join the inner circle. I've worked with a coach. Professional development is important to me. But I also, I am. That's why I'm teaching less, is because I like the business side of things. But yeah, I'm always learning from other people. I didn't go to school to do it, but that's what I do.
Yeah, it's great. Okay. I mean, it just goes to show how much you can learn by doing and your own research. You definitely don't need to go to college to become good at this kind of stuff. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for the overview of how all that works. I'm really keen, now that I've sort of unpacked a little bit of your studio, what's next for you? What's the big grand plan? I can actually see, you guys can't see this, but on the wall behind Amy is this whiteboard with, like, there has to be 50 Post-it notes on it in a tree diagram. Like, that looks really cool. I want to know more.
Okay, so this is from you interviewed Johnny Wilson.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago. So I joined his thing.
Cool. Yeah. Build a music studio.
Yes. Yeah. So that's his idea. That's all of the jobs that everyone does in the studio, including myself and the teachers and my assistant. And I just wrote everything down and gradually want to be moving things away from myself. So I just hired a cleaner a couple weeks ago, and I moved the cleaning sticky note over to over to the outsourced area. So yeah, that's what that is.
So it's it's kind of an organizational chart then that you're building as you go and shifting around.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. So what is next then, apart from handing over some jobs and having more time to be strategic about your business? What's the big plan?
I never know, because 3 months later, I'm doing something completely different than I thought. Planning to start hiring teachers for other instruments, upgrade my space. Those are my plans now, but who knows? I want to, and actually I wanted to mention this. I want to use your Notebook Beginners course, because I talked about needing something for the younger kids. I would like to use that as a kind of like an intro class for brand new piano students before they go into the regular lessons. So I'm looking to see how I could do that. That would be kind of cool. So
yeah, that'd be great. And I know people do use it in group formats as well. I mean, I designed it more for one-on-one, but there's no reason why it can't be done in groups. So that's cool. Make sure you let us know how that goes, won't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, I hope this discussion for those of you listening has been useful. And, I'm wondering, Amy, if you can give us some tips perhaps for other teachers who'd perhaps like to attend my conference in January or become an Inner Circle member and are worried about the costs. Have you got any general tips about the thinking that they can do to to be able to achieve these things?
You're very open about what's going to be available at your, in the inner circle and at your conference. And knowing that for me was helpful to be able to think of what I could do with the information that I got. So having an idea, and you need to act on things. You can't just go to conferences and join these memberships and expect inspiration to strike down the road. That might happen, but you do need to get up and ready to be ready to put the work in. And the sooner you do it, the better. So put the work in, and this is what I do. I will put the work in before I make the purchase. So thinking about what I want to do, doing everything I can before I spend the money. And that way I know that I'm not just going to spend the money and then do nothing about it. So
yeah, that's great. That's really proactive. I really like that approach too. And, it just means too that as if you sign up for a conference or a workshop that's costing you money, then having a look through the speakers, what they're talking about, and already getting the juices flowing about how you could implement something that's going to pay back the cost of that event is just so clever. Hard to implement sometimes, but I think once you get into it, as you've found, all you needed was that spark. You're like, okay, I think I can do this, and I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And it's almost kind of just getting off the couch and doing it. That's the hard thing. But once you're there, you'll be able to repeat this again for future purchases. So I hope this has been inspiring for teachers listening. I'm so excited to have you in the inner circle, and it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you. And I can't wait to see what you're going to be achieving in the next few years. I think it's going to be huge. You better tell people where they can find out more about you too, because I'm sure some of them might like to Google your studio and have a look.
So my studio is Figaro Music Studios, which is
Figaro.
Yeah, well, I named it after my dog, but I named the dog after that. So I have a little 6-pound poodle named Figaro, but I named him after Marriage of Figaro.
Yep.
But so that's the name of the studio, and I'm on Instagram, Figaro Music Studios, Facebook, same thing, and my website is the same thing. Actually, some people might find it useful. I have recorded the entire Piano Adventures library, and you can find it on there. So I've made videos of every song in there, and I'm working on the Pre-Time to Big Time series, and then I'll be doing a whole bunch of other things because that's kind of fun for me. So that's all recorded. And you can find that on my website if you go to the video library on there. So
you've just blown my mind. What do the Fabers think? Are they supportive of this?
I haven't talked to them.
Wow. You should tell them this is out there. That is a huge job, my golly.
Well, and I found that other people have done it too, but my piano, I have a Steinway grand from the 1920s. That my dad's a piano rebuilder, so he rebuilt that, and it's really great, and it's always in tune, and I used a pretty good mic for it. So I felt like, I could bring a little more quality to the recording. So.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Yeah. Continuing to impress me. Lovely to connect with you. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Amy.
Thanks so much, Tim.
How inspiring was Amy? I really enjoyed today's interview because not only have you got a teacher who is looking and thinking at ways that she can expand and grow and build her studio, but she's also not afraid to reach out and grab a fantastic course or coaching or whatever it is that can help her grow. But she's doing it so cleverly by making sure that she brings in the income she needs to cover that cost. I just think it's incredibly clever. And so if you've been thinking about whether you'd like to come to Piano Pivot Live here in Melbourne in January next year, or a particular other workshop, or join the Inner Circle, or grab a course online or something like that costs a few $100s, then rather than just write it off, ask yourself, what could I do in my studio to bring in the money I need to get a return on that investment? Next week on the podcast, we're speaking to the president of the Music Teachers National Association, America's biggest association of music teachers, and we'll be offering a never-before-seen discount to their next conference, which is in Chicago in March 2020. I can't wait because I'm going to be heading over there to give a creative teaching, live teaching demonstration masterclass, and I hope that some of you will be able to join us. So if you're interested in a bit of a discount, and who isn't, then make sure you tune in next week for my chat with the president of the MTNA. I'm Tim Topham, and this is the Creative Piano Teaching Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Now, just before you go, if you enjoyed today's show, I'd love for you to check out my Inner Circle piano teaching community. It's the go-to resource for piano teachers looking to continue their professional development, connect with other teachers and experts from around the world, and to access hundreds of world-class training resources, including our academy courses, lesson plans, teaching videos, technology help, and much more. Whether you're just starting out or have been working hard to build your studio for a while, the Inner Circle community will give you the skills, support, and confidence you need to grow the studio of your dreams, whether that's about teaching a small number of students one-on-one in your home or hiring a commercial space, employing other teachers, and building an entire music teaching empire. With courses on both the teaching and business side of running your studio, live coaching, and our thriving community forums, you can get quick answers to questions, set yourself challenges, get feedback on your ideas, and feel confident teaching in new and exciting ways. For more information on how to join us inside the Inner Circle today, head over to timtopham.com/community, and we'll see you on the inside.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Creative Piano Teaching Podcast. We'd love to help take your teaching to the next level as a member of our supportive community. Use the coupon Piano Podcast for $100 off an annual membership of Tim's Inner Circle today. To find out more, head to timtopham.com/community.